Gaurang, welcome to Business Today Television. How do you see the markets, and what are the one or two stocks that you feel in the longer term would add value, luster, and color to our viewers' portfolios?
Well, thank you very much, Shell, and morning to all of you all. It's always a pleasure to be on your show and Sakshi's show this morning. So, uh, you know, view on the market, Shell, I think it's a brief period of consolidation. Let's face it. And I don't think anybody has to complain over here because the kind of rally that we've seen. In a month, you've seen almost 20,000 level. 30th of June, we were at 19,000. Correct me if I'm wrong, and if my memory serves me right. And we are on possibly 2nd of August, and we've already seen 19,991.85 on the Nifty, missing the 20,000 mark by about 8 odd points. But nevertheless, I think for me, more or less, we've been there. So I think it's a brief period of consolidation which will give enough stability, strength, and a foundation for the next rally up beyond 20,000. For me, 20,000 is nothing, just a figure. For me, I think if you ask me over a longer period of time, I think we have to aim at 25,000 by 20 and even more, Shell, because we have the capability and the capacity and the numbers to deliver. And we have the great strength of retail investors now becoming aware about how successful investment in equity market is over a longer period of time if you have done a little bit of study and invested in good sound companies over a longer period of time. And that number is growing. We just saw in the month of June record number of DP accounts getting opened. Having said that, two investment ideas, like you mentioned, two of them. First one is from a private sector bank, a great name which has shown a tremendous turnaround in terms of earning visibility, ICICI Bank. And the second one is from a sector which is not so spoken about, is power generation. Uh, we've been extremely positive, Shell, about power generation. And if I recollect right, the government is talking about adding new capacity of close to 360 or 370 gigawatts, and large part of that new capacity is going to be from solar and wind, and of course then your conventional hydro, etc. And if you're going to create that kind of capacity, and if you're thinking that India can become the next $1 trillion economy, and according to our prime minister, honorable prime minister, if you become third largest economy, I think banking, power services, manufacturing are the core sectors that need to contribute. So Tata Power is the stock from the power generation, has been in news over the last couple of days, possibly nearing its all-time high. But I think this stock has also got tremendous potential.
Gaurang, let's discuss this backwards. Let's first hit Tata Power. Of course, the stock is consolidating near record highs. Just remember that these are long-term portfolio picks that Mr. Shah has suggested, and they can be added, of course, at current market prices. But if you see some kind of a correction, that's more or less welcome. Tata Power, most certainly. If you see yesterday's numbers on the GST data, and also how power consumption has risen dramatically in the month of July, up about 11% over the same July year ago. Tata Power makes perfect sense. A lot of financial data that's coming on your screens. What's also happened, Gaurang, that the BSE Power Index is one of those indices that is still to touch a record high, and that's primarily because power was a government PSU kind of a sector where you had SGVN, NHPC, NTPC. It's now that we are seeing a breakout on the power sector as well. So, what are the two or three things in the financial part of Tata Power that you like? We've collected some data for our viewers, which they can watch on Tata Power.
Well, on a lighter note, Shell, वो दिन गए अब जब आप लंगर डाल करके ऊर्जा की चोरी करते थे, और ये मेरे ख्याल से कांड उत्तर भारत में सबसे ज्यादा होता था. But now of course, things have changed. We are talking about smart meters now, and Tata Power is also a big player over there along with other players. Solar, they're already there, and I've seen the kind of work they have done in southern northern states like Rajasthan, Punjab, uh, Uttar Pradesh, etc. And the best part is, Shell, that we have just realized that what is our potential in terms of creating energy from sun, that is solar energy. There's so much of potential. I think unfortunate part is that even after 75 years of independence, there are still certain areas in the semi-urban rural area, जहां पर बिजली आती है सिर्फ मुंह दिखाई करने के लिए और बाद में चली जाती है, 2-3 घंटे बिजली रहती है, we just have power supply for 3 to 4 hours, rest of the time is spent in darkness or without power. So now I think things are changing, and more I think this government policies that have been made up for the power generating sector. More importantly, I think the financial health of the state electricity board is improving, and that's going to change the fortunes of power generation as well as power transmission and distribution companies. Great name Tada's that this company comes from. It's already it's already launched, I think, EV charging stations, etc. And in terms of conventional power generation, they have a decent capacity in place. Valuation at 244, I think it's decently valued. So again, like you rightly mentioned, just for the benefit of your viewership, let me put a disclosure. These ICICI Bank and Tata Power are long-term fundamental ideas. So you need to have at least year and a half plus kind of a time horizon, and no need to go and jump into both these names with all your financial strength. Deploy 25-30% at current levels, and on dips, go on adding to these stocks.
Yeah, Gaurang, the interesting thing about Tata Power, I was seeing the stock has a 5-year median PE of about the same level as it is now, somewhere like 23, 24. And although the stock is in the trajectory of a record high, it being about 270 that we'd seen about 11 months ago, it's been not much of a performer over the long term, which is fine. Power is not a sector which is associated with Zani gains. So the 10-year CAGR of Tata Power is 11% a year. It has underperformed the Sensex and is in line with its BSE Power Index. However, if you see the last 3 years, when a lot of fresh capacity has come in, Tata Power has really zoomed. Its CAGR over the last 3 years is 71%. Compared with the Sensex of about 21 and the BSE Power Index of about 41% CGR. So these are the two data points that you can look at as far as Tata Power is concerned. And Gaurang giving a very fitting disclaimer: don't put in your money immediately. This is a long-term play in your portfolio, and it should be purchased in a piecemeal manner. ICICI Bank, Gaurang, has been one of your favorites, and the numbers have justified your faith. What else do you see from these current levels? Of course, it's a corporate bank. We have a capex cycle in front of us, which is unfolding beautifully. 2 or 3 points that you can add value on ICICI Bank. The numbers are in front of you.
So I think credit demand is only going to multiply, and India is a country wherein there is dearth of credit available. And if you are in the right business in terms of lending money, and if your numbers are good enough and strong enough, and if the future looks quite bright in terms of your loan book growth, along with your gross and net NPA coming down at a very decent level, with your provisioning also coming down, then I think your deposits, your advances, your CASA number is only going to swell up north. And that's going to make your balance sheet very strong. In terms of growth that we foresee, I think let me put this disclosure. Normally, I don't make any forward-looking statements here. But last financial also, we were positive on banking and finance. This financial year, since we are in the middle of the first earnings this financial year, I would possibly go out and put this statement that even this financial year and along with coming financial years, I think banking and finance, that is NBFCs, private sector banks and public sector banks, are going to do extremely well. And like I mentioned, like power, if India is going to aiming at the next $1 trillion economy, I think banking sector is going to be the core backbone of that, reaching towards that next $1 trillion economy. Because without liquidity, you can't do anything, absolutely nothing. And that's where I think the importance of banking and finance will come. Along with that, Shell, I think the rural economy, semi-urban and rural India, is really recovering at a very faster pace. That's purely because of the kind of income that's being generated out of the agri-produce, largely because large part of your population is dependent over there. I think over there, penetration is extremely required, and core focus is going to be of private sector banks. And now that the mandatory requirement is also put in place by Reserve Bank of India. And overall, I think the management is absolutely clear.
This is a wonderful play that you've caught up, Gaurang, and everything, whether it's financials, falling net NPAs, rising NIMs, increasing branch network, ICICI Bank checks all of them, and that's evident in the performance. 10-year CAGR trailing 19%, actually it's 19.7% CAGR each year in the last decade for ICICI Bank. It's made shareholders very, very happy. The Sensex at the same time has appreciated only 13% per year CAGR for the last decade, and the S&P Banking Index at about 16%. So sheer outperformance over a 10-year period. The same numbers repeat themselves for ICICI Bank in a better fashion in 5 years and 3 years. So whether you look at the short-term holding period between 3 and 5 or the longer term 10, it's been a classic outperformer.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.